Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana. And we're here today with special guest, R.B. Wood, who's here to share with us his new book, Winter in the City. So are you looking for a unique page turner? Well, our guest today is here to share with us just that. Former technologist, entrepreneur, world traveler, and author and editor R.B. Wood is an MFA graduate from Emerson College and the founder of Ruidon Books. The newest publishing house continues to uplift and amplify marginalized voices. Its mission is to welcome new authors, inspire them, and to tell unique stories from a worldwide perspective. As a dark speculative storyteller, Wood has had novels and short stories published online and traditionally. His thriller, Bayou Whispers, blends the horrors of everyday life with that of the supernatural. It tells the story of a strong female survivor with plot twists, dark mystery, and magic. So welcome to the show, R.B. Wood.
Thank you, Marianne. It's great to be here.
My goodness, what an honor it is to have you here and to talk about this book. Before we even dive into this, you have such a fascinating background. I'd love for you to share that with us.
Sure. I've been around for a while. For your listeners, I'm sorry to say I'm going to be 60 this December. So I'm an old man, but I still have a lot of life left. And I started off in the technology arena when it was not as in vogue as it has been for the last few decades. And I originally wanted to be an architect, and my father suggested I go for mathematics and computers because architecture will be part of, that whole computer infrastructure moving forward, and maybe start there. And I never looked back from that for what I call my first career. And I spent 30 years in technology with varying levels of responsibility, working for mainly the biotech, pharmaceutical, the biofuels, and financial services industries. I worked all around the world. I lived in lots of different places as part of what I was doing for a living. And I got to a certain point, and I hope everybody gets to this point in their career and has the opportunity that it would be, it's time to give back to the next generation, as it were. But I thought about the career that I had and the career that I really would have liked, and it goes back to, I was about 8 when my father gave me a copy of War of the Worlds. It was the first novel I ever read. I still actually have that copy, and I was hooked on stories ever since. And reading has always been an amazing hobby of mine. I have a library in the house here, which drives my poor wife crazy, of about 2,000 books. And I continually pick up new books, go to the library, read some more, etc. I think reading is just a fundamental part of understanding this world that we're in for just such a relatively short time. And I decided to do something a little different. I tried my hand at writing, and I went back to school and got a second master's in creative writing from Emerson College here in Boston. And then after putting out a few books and a couple dozen short stories and things along those lines, which I will still do, I decided that I found my calling with regard to giving back, and that is running a small press that is dedicated to showcasing what I would call old hand authors, people who've been in the business before, alongside of new writers. And you mentioned Winter in the City, and that is our first book that we're publishing with the Ruidon nameplate. And it's an anthology. I didn't write for it. I was privileged to be a co-editor with my partner in crime, Anna Kuhn. And we found 18 stories that explore the darkness that can be part of human life, along with some of the supernatural. What we write with Ruidon, and what we like to promote and not like to sell, are dark speculative fiction stories. What does that mean? That means horror stories. That means fantasy, science fiction. We also do, noir mystery. And Ruadan is an Irish word. It's actually an old Irish god. Um, and he was the god of mystery and espionage. So I thought that was a perfect title. Plus, everything has been taken on the internet these days anyway. So I had the added benefit of being able to get all the domain names I wanted. So, but I've started the press specifically to raise new voices and showcase voices that historically may not have been heard or picked up by the larger presses. You know, I'm a huge fan of Stephen King. I have been my whole life. And I mean, I had an original copy of Salem's Lot when it came out, and Carrie, et cetera, et cetera. Unfortunately, I don't still have those. Otherwise, I'd really retire. But I don't think I'll ever retire. But but there are other voices out there, and stories are really what we use, and it's a great mechanism to discover our place here on this planet and in life itself. It gives us an opportunity to reflect. It gives us an opportunity to share experiences. And I'd like to share experiences from a lot of different people with a lot of different backgrounds, who come from a lot of different cultures, who have a lot of different belief systems. And I think that goes a long way to understanding folks. And what we did in Winter of the City, there's 18 stories, and they're all dark stories that take place in various cities around the world. And each story is named after the city it takes place in. And 9 of the folks in there are what I would call old hands, as I said earlier, published authors. And there are 9 stories from really good new authors who haven't had that break yet, or haven't been published yet, or are really ramping up, but there's a lot of talent there. And the 9 stories we pulled for this came from a total submission of over 500. And my co-editor and I read through all 500 stories. And these 9 that are included with the anthology are fantastic, just brilliant writers, and I'm honored and privileged to have worked with all of them. There's a couple on the side of published authors who I've been, you know, fanboying over for years, like Richard Kadrey, who does the Sandman Slim series, or Bracken McLeod, who I find a delightful human being, as well as a very talented and competent lawyer and writer. And but we also have new writers, or certainly new to us, and new to a broader audience, writers from people from India and Finland and Panama and places all around the world, and they wrote about cities they are familiar with. And some of the stories are thrilling, and some are heartbreaking, and some are thought provoking. And I think there's something for everybody in this first collection that we're bringing out. We've more coming out in 2025.
Well, how exciting is that? And what an experience to go through all those writings of all those authors. You must have had a really difficult time selecting the ones that would go in this book.
I did. We had some pretty stringent criteria for the stories. I mean, that helps a little bit, but it was really when we got to the end of the slush, right? So we'd say, "Oh, this is good. Well, let's see if there's anything better out there." Or, "This is good. This is," and we came down to about 50 or 60 stories that we liked, and we knew we only had room for 9. Unfortunately, because that's just the way the business goes. After 100,000 words, it becomes much more expensive to print uh, these books, and then they become unavailable or unattainable for people with a limited budget. So 9 stories is what we locked in on that we wanted to select from the slush pile. We had the 9 people that we invited already. And that last month, I mean, Anna and I went back and forth, and we had our favorites. And the good news is like 4 or 5 of the stories we agreed on, and the other ones we had to fight for. And Anna and I had some great discussions around that, and that energized me even more, knowing that we were narrowing it down to some of the better stories we received. You know, it's it's not just about hearing those new voices, but in hearing those new voices in a way that will stick with someone for a very long time. And that takes a lot of skill and talent. And I'm delighted to say that every single person on our in our table of contents uh, is unbelievably talented. Like I said before, I'm incredibly proud to work with this group of people.
Well, on that note, we're going to pause here for a quick break. You've been listening to Moments with Mary Ann. We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
Are you an author, speaker, or expert who is looking for more publicity? Visit radioguestlist.com and sign up for free interview requests from shows looking for guests. Radio Guest List is the #1 free booking resource for radio, podcasts, and TV talk shows who are looking for experts like you right now. Visit radioguestlist.com and sign up today to get the visibility you deserve.
There comes a moment when you realize you're somewhere special. When you discover that each beautiful creature that you see has been rescued from a life of absolute horror and brought to this incredibly free place. Here's where their lives were forever changed and where yours will as well. Discover over 500 tigers, bears, and lions at the brand new visitor center at the Wild Animal Sanctuary just outside Denver. For more information, visit wildanimalsanctuary.org. Discover true freedom at the Wild Animal Sanctuary.
It's one thing to become attached to your perfect home, but what do you do when that home becomes attached to you? A family in dire need of a fresh start, a mysterious house tied to the past. Buried deep within the foundation of the old Far Hill Manor lies a centuries-old secret. Dark forces or something stronger just waiting to be discovered. Caretaker, a supernatural thriller by breakout authors R.J. Halpert.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
I'd like to thank Jason Eastwood at Guitarfulness for sharing his inspiring music and talent with us. His music is known worldwide for cultivating atmospheres of harmony, inner peace, and clarity. Visit Jason's website at guitarfulness.com. Join his newsletter, be part of his community, and download his music. Welcome back to Moments with Mary Ann. We're here today with special guest R.B. Wood, who's sharing with us his new book, Winter in the City. So as a dark speculative author yourself, you've written many novels. Can you share those with us?
Sure. My first novel came out in 2012. It's called The Prodigal's Fool. Yes, and before anybody writes into your show, I know it's actually called The Prodigal Son, not Prodigals, but that's a play on words there. And that particular one tells a story in the Boston area of, and it's a simple question that it begins to answer, but it's a very tough answer. What if real magic existed in the real world? How would that go? How would that come about? Who would want to control that? Because power always wants to be controlled by someone or someone's. And how would we go about finding out about it in this age of communications and all the rest of that if they're trying to hide it from the rest of us. So that's what that particular book talks about there, and I may continue on with that story at some point. The most recent one that I wrote is called Bayou Whispers, and takes place mostly in New Orleans, and follows an attorney by the name of Janine, who discovers that she's got some really interesting genetics when it comes to where she was raised, how she was raised, and that begins and opens with her coming out during Katrina, coming out of a group of trees, and she was rescued during Katrina, but rescued by people who weren't there to rescue her, and that's all I'll say about that. It's you find out more as you go through the story, and instead of hiding from the world, she understands what she's been through, and she's turned around to go out and help other people, and then discovers a lot about herself during the process. And there's all sorts of very interesting voodoo magic and ghosts as part of it. And I always add a bit of history in that, in my stories, because I think history is very important to read about and know about, and so it doesn't get repeated. So yeah, those are those stories. I have another one that is a early World War II story that's being worked on right now that will come out hopefully in beginning of 2026. I won't say more about that now because it's still a work in progress, and quite frankly, things could change, and then somebody will bring up this recording. But yeah, I enjoy the whole process of writing, coming up with a story, especially developing the characters. Any good book, short story, or any story at all that's worth its weight in gold has fantastic characters developed for it. I mean, there's a reason why, for example, Die Hard, people still talk about that movie today, and the argument about whether it's a Christmas movie or not, I won't get into. But if you look at the characterizations in that, Alan Rickman as the head of the bad guys, but each one of his gang had distinct and individual personalities, which made the whole situation more real because, you know, not a single building I'm aware of has air vents that people can crawl through, right? That's just a movie device. But the story is interesting because the characters are three-dimensional and deep, and they've all got backgrounds, and they've all got distinct personalities that are recognized by the audience. So the audience can say, well, I can relate to this person. I may not agree with what they're doing, but I understand what they're all about. And I think, that's one of many skills that writers bring to the table that is so important to tell their stories.
Well, you've been in the writing and publishing space for some time. What advice would you give to new authors?
Keep at it. Keep at it. You know what? Take those rejection letters, because we all have them, and stack them together. Stephen King used to have a spike on his desk that he'd slap the rejection letters on it, and then he had to get a second spike because he'd gotten so many initially. You know, you've heard the stories of the famous authors who've been rejected so many times, then finally got their break, and the rest has been fantastic. I mean, Tom Clancy. I love the story of Tom Clancy. He was selling his books out of the back of his car, and Ronald Reagan got a copy of it and actually spoke about it, and I think it was one of his press conferences. And that's how Tom Clancy, uh, uh, his books became almost mainstream. And in fact, rest his soul, but his name is being carried on today with techno thrillers that I think he'd be pretty proud of. So keep at it, because if you want to do this, you've got to always read, you've got to always write. Okay, you can't be a writer without reading, and you've got to keep putting your words out there. I know a lot of these stories are personal for people, and it's hard to get rejection for stories that are told from a personal perspective, from deep in your heart or psyche or what have you. Keep at it, learn what you can. If you're on social media, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of writers out there that are in the same boat or were in the same boat as you. Ask them questions. They are always paying it forward. They're always willing to talk to you. And if they're not, three others will take their place. So talk to people, read as much as you can, and just keep writing. You'll get better every time you write. I swear to you, you will, even if the self-doubt kicks in. So that's my advice to folks out there. Read, write, submit, and keep submitting, and look at a rejection as just a badge of, one of the merit badges of becoming a writer.
You have to get so many rejections to get that one yes. Yeah.
I'm,
So,
I'm afraid so. It's just part of the business. It's like breaking into Hollywood or anything along those lines, right? It's it's something that everybody thinks they can do. Not very many people can do it, and if you're talking about directing or acting or even set design and all of those particular pieces, but at the end of the day, the more you practice something, the better you get at it. They say it takes 10,000 hours to become proficient at something. I don't know if that's true or not. I know I've certainly spent 10,000 hours writing. Um, I'm not sure I'm proficient at it yet. I don't think I ever will be, but I know I get better every single time I do write.
just that practice, that practice. So, how can authors submit their works for consideration?
Well, that's a great question. If you want to come work with me at Ruodon, or one of my editors, we actually have two open calls right now. The first is an open call for novels, and we're looking for noir mysteries. And if you're not sure what a noir mystery is, go look at the Thin Man and things along those lines. You'll get an idea for it. Read some of the old um, Raymond Chandler stuff. We love that stuff, and we'll eat it up. Also, as far as dark speculative fiction, um, you know, the guidelines are up on our site at Ruadan Ruadan books.com. And if you've got a novel, it's done. Read the guidelines, follow the guidelines. I cannot emphasize that enough. It's important. That's kind of a test to see if you're able to follow the guidelines, etc. I know it's a little bit mean of me, but that's how we operate. And the other one I have is what I would call the sequel anthology to Winter in the City, called Spring in the City, and we're looking for dark speculative fiction stories, sci-fi, fantasy, horror, up to 7,500 words, but between, say, 3,000 and 7,500, sweet spot being about 4,000, 4,500. And we'd love you to submit for that as well. Again, read the guidelines. That's the best way to do it. And there are links on our site to our submission software. We use something called Moksha. So a lot of people use Submittable. I found that Moksha's a little more flexible for us. But that's how you submit. And Anna and I go through everything that's come in, and we've already got, I would say, 3 or 4 novels that look promising, as well as a couple of short stories for the next anthology. And our open calls are lasting until the end of January. So you have some time, but not a lot. Goes fast.
It sure does. Where can people go for more information and to go ahead and submit their information?
Sure. So the first place would be our website, which is, as I said before, ruadanbooks.com, all one word, Ruadan books.com. We all are also all over social media. We are on X, which used to be Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. And And that's kind of our community, our online community. I mean, that's how you're going to be able to find the stories from around the world that I want to find and publish.
Well, RB, it has been such an honor to spend this time with you. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Oh, my pleasure, Marianne. Thank you very much for having me. I've enjoyed the conversation very much.
Well, thank you, RB. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, Winter in the City. Make sure to visit Ruadan Books for more information on their works, and that's spelled Ruadan books.com. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.